Um,
All right.
all right.
So we're
Good
joined by
morning,
my
everyone.
friend, Dr. Shonda Sessoms. We're joined by my friend, Dr. Shonda Sessoms, licensed professional counselor, owner of Sessoms Counseling. Just an unbelievable resume of counseling. We thank you so much for joining us. We're in the Human Services Career Cluster. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson. We had to switch to my phone due to some technical difficulties, but we're still glad you could join us today. We're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Rosa Scott, Germantown High School, Ridgeland High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for bearing with us with our technical issues and joining us today.
Oh, sure. No problem. It's Monday. I say on Mondays and Fridays, anything can happen. We just flow with it. But I want to take this time to say good morning to everyone and thank you, Mr. Paget, for inviting me to your classroom to speak on the Human Service Cluster for today. And it's one that is very dear to my heart. And I'm going to give a little backdrop or background as to how I got into the Human Services career cluster. And you'll be able to understand why it is so important to me. And so I will go back to when I was in high school. I think I want to start there. I think I want to start there when I was in high
Sure.
school. Um, I was a high honor roll student, AB student, and excelled um, in the choir, band manager, just different things. So I was very active and kept my grades up. I was also predominantly raised by my grandparents. I am the product of two 15-year-old parents. So that in itself was
Wow.
challenging. And also, I would say that there was this automatic thought from others that I was going to go down the same path. Um, but there's a but, and that's why I tell people don't let anyone determine your destiny. Don't let anyone determine your destiny because it's not theirs to determine. And so when I
There
say
you
that,
go.
I was very self-motivated. I was very self-motivated. My grandparents did not know a lot. They were not, when I say educated individuals academically, they were not my maternal grandparent and great grandparent. My paternal grandparent was. And so I got the best of both worlds, so to speak. Although my maternal grandparents were not very versed in education and the things that I needed to know in terms of high school credits, going to college. They taught me, along with my paternal grandparents, very, very important life skills. And I think that's something that's missing today. We need life skills. And so for that, I'm very grateful. I would say that one of the things I use as a motivation tool is the area in which I grew up. I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, West Jackson specifically, and there were tough times. And so having to fight through the era of gang violence was very prevalent. It was prominent during that time. There was drugs and all of that kind of stuff. So you had drug dealers on the corner and everything. So I had to fight through all of that. So I use it as my motivation to get out, so to speak. So I use my education. And so that's why I tell young people education is very important. And when I say education, getting your primary education, your secondary, your high school education, and determining from there whether you want to go into a career in the workforce straight out of high school or whether you want to go into college to then in turn go into a career. So I graduated from Jim Hill High School. And one of the things I want to say about that before I move forward is that a very great high school. And although it was a very great high school, I did face challenges in terms of what I wanted to do when I graduated. I did not have an idea of what I wanted to do. So, yes, there were counselors. But to be honest, I did not have a relationship with my counselor at all. And I was not in the top 10, but I was not in the bottom 10 either or the middle. I was up there. So when it came to, I'm gonna say this, the ACT, I did not know what the ACT was. Let me just be honest. So here I am, a high scholar student, high honor roll every term, honor society, okay? And I didn't know that I needed to take the ACT to go to college. So then the question lies, okay, where was I? You know, where was I? But then most importantly, where was my counselor? Did we have conversations about these things? No, not to my knowledge. And I spoke with other colleagues, other classmates and peers, and we reflect back on our high school years, and we all come to the conclusion, no, unless our parents were versed and had an understanding and knowledge base of these things. So I said I wanted to go to USM, right? I didn't know I had to have a certain ACT score to get into USM. I'm just talking along with my friends. We're going to USM. We're going to USM. Then here comes, well, you have to take the ACT. We're taking the ACT. So we took the ACT. I did not score high. One of the things I try to tell individuals is that, I was a high scholar, high honor roll, but I was not able to take standardized tests well because of anxiety and things like that. So we weren't taught test taking strategies like you're being taught today. And I think that is awesome. So I say to the younger generation, take advantage of what your teachers are trying to teach you in terms of test taking because it makes a difference. It really, really makes a difference. And so from that, I would say I ended up going to Jackson State University and I didn't even know what I wanted to major in. Let me just say that. I just saw a lady on TV with a briefcase and I said, you know what? I think I want to do that. I knew I wanted to do something, but what that something was, did not have a clue or an idea. But I saw this lady and I said, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. So I majored in business administration. Um, Another thing, I did not know the courses that calls for a business degree. So I'm going to say this: math was not my best subject. It could have been, but it was not my best subject. Let me just say this. Let me take that back. It was not my best subject in junior high school for several reasons. When I got to high school, and he's no longer with us, but I would say Mr. Allen was my math teacher. And he taught me geometry and algebra too. And never in my life did I make A's and B's in math. I was always maybe a C student, sometimes D student. But I learned then that it depends on also the instructor, but again, your mindset. So I'm not going to put it all on the teacher. It's also the mindset that you have as a student. If you don't like something, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to do well in it because of your thought process about it and how you feel about it. So we have to
There
change
you
how we
go.
feel about things. And we have to challenge ourselves to say, okay, I don't like this subject, but I need this subject
There
to
you
get out
go.
of school. So let me find ways where I can overcome this challenge of me not liking it. And so your teacher plays an important part, yes. But then you also, as an individual, as a student, play an important part. And so I'm going to get into advocacy in just a minute because I love to teach young people how to advocate for themselves. What does that mean? How to stand up for yourself respectfully, but also to get what you need educationally and other means in the right way. What do I mean by advocacy? Well, sometimes our parents don't know. Like in my situation, my parents did not know, especially my grandparents, they did not know the things that I needed in order to, I'm going to say, be successful. Let me just academically, let me just say that. So I had to get out there and I had to ask teachers, ask other people that knew or that could possibly help me. And so I couldn't be afraid to speak up and ask questions and even say, I don't know. A lot of times we don't ask questions, we don't speak up, about things that we want to know things about because we don't know. So in those ways, we have to say, you know what, even if my parents, grandparents, or whomever that you all are living with don't know, you can speak up for yourself and say, you know what, this is my life, this is my education. I'm going to have to um work one day. I'm going to have a career. I'm going to be an adult, basically. And I need to be able to take care of myself. So I need to know certain things. So asking questions, going to your counselor, even if they say, I'm busy, this, that, and the other, persistence, 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 persistence. So when I got to Jackson State University, I had to take these courses and everything was good. English was my thing. I could write with my eyes closed. Science, those are my things. Math, I did not know, besides college algebra, that I had to take trigonometry and I had to take business calculus. What is that? And so, again, I found myself in a situation where, is this for me? Is this really something I can do? However, I made it through by talking to several people, trying to find out which teachers do I need to enroll in their class so that I can be successful. Because I need someone that's going to not just baby me, but somebody that's going to guide me and walk with me, so that I can do what I need to do. Needless to say, I was able to pass those classes and I got my degree. And I went and I worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi as a claims processor. So I started out as a temporary worker, a temp worker, and I then got on permanent 3 months after. So after that period, I was able to work there and promote into different positions. And so I promoted into an adjuster. And that's the position that I was last working in at Blue Cross Blue Shield until I got laid off. And so I worked there for like over 11 years, almost 12 years. During the course of that time, I believe the last couple of years I was working there as an adjuster, I started to not feel passionate about what I was doing. And I was working in the church and also in the community doing community service with children. And I found that that was something I enjoyed and that I was passionate about. So I was tutoring kids at Operation Shoestring through Blue Cross Blue Shield's community involvement. And so doing that, I see, I want to help kids. I saw a need because I thought back to when I was in school and there was no one to help me, no one to guide me, no one to talk to me to help me through because some of these kids had some issues, behaviorally or whatnot, and or lack of support at home. So I just started doing some research and I was like, I wonder what I can do. What could I can do? So I thought about school counseling. So I found some information. I can even tell you how I got the information to apply at MC Mississippi College in Clinton, Mississippi, but I did. And I found out that I needed to take these tests. Again, I'm a type of person, I'm a go-getter, so I'm gonna go find out what I need to find out. I'm just gonna find it out. I'm like, okay, I want to do this. I'm gonna Google, I'm gonna read, I'm gonna do all those things. So I did that and I took the test. I had to take a test. And there are three parts: reading, math, and writing. And so I passed the, I believe it was the math and reading, but I didn't pass the writing right off. I think I was off 3 points. I was like, wait a minute, writing is my thing. How did I pass this math portion in reading and I didn't pass? So I was so determined. I said, okay, I'm going to get this. So I didn't let it discourage me. I went back within a lot of time frame. And before I went back, I thought about what did I do last time that I need to do this time? So they give you a prompt and everything. So I went back, passed the test. Fast forward, I'm admitted into school for my master's. I was getting my master's in school counseling because I was wanting to go back. I thought about my counselor didn't help me. I thought about the things that kids need to know. So went back to school, got my master's in 2011. And then about 3 months, no, that was May. So I'm going to say about 7 months later, I got my specialist in counseling. While in school, I thought about, I just didn't want to be in the school sector because what if I don't like it after so long? I want to be able to do something else. So during that time, I started experiencing um, individuals that were dealing with mental health issues in my life. And I decided to take certain courses that would help me, that I could get licensed to be a mental health practitioner, therapist. And so I did that. And in 2012, the summer, the end of the summer, towards the end of the summer 2012, my professor was talking about a program, a new program. It was a doctorate program. And I was like, look, I'm tired of school. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I'm done. I'm done. I've done everything that I wanted to do. And so with other people encouraging me, I enrolled into the doctorate program for professional counseling. And so that took about 3 years. They said it was going to take about two, but it took me about three because I had to do a dissertation, which is I had to basically write a book about what I was researching
Well,
and all of that. And so I did that, graduated in 2015. Before I graduated, I was able to attain my licensure as a licensed professional counselor
wow.
in 2014. So I was able to do that. And once I did that, I'll back up some. Before After I graduated with my master's and my specialist, during that time, I was doing internships. And so I did a full-time internship because I was not in the educational system. I didn't have a educator license at the time, a teaching or anything. So I did a full internship, a year full internship at Witten Middle School in South Jackson. And I continued working there or interning there for another year because I was not able to find a job. So I worked a little odd jobs. I worked at, and you all, I know sometimes we kind of look down on certain jobs because we want, I know the young people today, they want to come out of school making 20, $25, or more. But you have to crawl before you walk. So here I am, someone who used to have a job as an adjuster, all of that. Now I'm in a position where I'm interning and I need money because my unemployment had ran out, right? From when I got laid off and all of that. So I went and I got me a job at Burger King. And I said, well, I can work overnight and then I could do this and do that. One of the things I would say to anyone is to always remain humble and walk in humility. And sometimes we have to start somewhere to get to somewhere else. So we shouldn't despise small beginnings, so to speak. So I did that. And so in 2012, I was able to secure me a position as a counselor at Powell Middle School in Jackson, Mississippi. And so I secured that position and I became the lead counselor. I was thinking I was just going in to become a counselor, assist, but God has a way of doing things. And so I will also say this to individuals: don't limit yourself. Do
There you
not
go.
yourself, because there is so much more out there that's available to you if you avail yourself, if you put yourself in position. So I knew nothing. I knew some things, but when it came to lead, it was like, oh, this is huge, you know. But again, I am self-motivated. I'm determined. When I'm faced with a challenge, I'm like, okay, I can do this. I'm going to overcome it. And that's just how my mindset was. So I paired with someone who could show me the steps, and they did. But for the most part, I learned through inquiry. I learned through figuring things out, searching, trying to see, and okay, that doesn't work. Let me try something else. So I was able to do that, and I made a great impact, I would say, based upon my principal's response to my work ethic and everything. So that made me super proud. Fast forward, I worked at Powell Middle School for a few years. Principal got transferred to Blackburn Middle School. And that was sweet for me because it put me back into um, my home, I would say. It put me back home because I grew up around Jackson State Blackburn Middle School. So it's like I was coming back home. And so I was able to help the kids in which the neighborhood that I grew up in. So that was very special for me. So I worked there for a few years and then I went to high school. And so I began the next phase of my career working at a high school, which I love totally, love high school. One of the things that was so important for me was to make sure that each and every student knew what it took to get out of high school, that they had the right credits, right number of credits, that I was able to talk with them. And one of the things that I found that was so rewarding, I didn't think anything of it, but I had parents come into my office and they wanted to meet me when I first got there. And I just thought, like, wait a minute. I was like, I don't know. I thought, I felt like I was the savior for them. But I was like, because when they came in there, it was like, oh, we're so glad you're here. We this, that, and the other, because they weren't able to talk to the counselor before. I think they would tell me stories about different things. And I was like, oh wow, this was just interesting. I even had teachers coming to meet me and we formed a great alliance and we collaborated. And there were many children that were not ready for graduation. So it was a very hard task ahead of me. My first year in high school, learning at that about the different ins and outs to what I needed to do. And I was successful at it. I was successful at it, I'm thankful for that opportunity. Um, few years down from that, I ended up, well, let's say after that first year, I did leave because I was really tired and I was worn out. Then I came back. And then I came back um as a life wellness coach. Because I have a licensed professional counselor licensure, I was able to do that. I also worked for a counseling agency in which I provided assistance to mental health therapists. So here's the thing. I was in the school system. I saw that it was a lot that needed to be done that I couldn't do as a counselor. So I opted and decided to walk away from the education system. And it was a hard thing for me to do, but at the same time, it was easy for me to do, if that makes sense. I love the kids that I service. Love, 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 love the kids that I service. However, I felt that I could do more with them in a community type way. So I opened my own private practice. As a matter of fact, I opened my private practice while I was working in the school system as a life wellness coach, but I went fully into it in June of 2022. So I became a contract provider. And what that is that I work for several online platforms and I provide therapy to other individuals and from age ranges from 10 and up. And so, what I want to say about what I do is that I am a licensed professional counselor, I am a licensed therapist, and I deal with mental health concerns and issues. I deal with those that are mild, I deal with those that are severe. I want to say that within the community, specifically the African American community, there is a stigma that if you talk to someone professionally about your issues, concerns, or whatnot, and it has to deal with your mental, emotional, social, that you're crazy. That is far from the truth. That is a very big myth. Listen, you guys, I am a therapist, and this is what I tell my clients. I have a therapist. How about
Yep.
that? I am a therapist and I have a therapist. I went to my appointment last week. Very much needed it. Okay. And I felt better when I left because this is what I say to people. I need another set of eyes as well as another set of ears to help me process the things that maybe I'm thinking and feeling because not all the time am I right in my thought processes or in my feelings. So I want you to know that you may be going through situations at home that are hard. You have your counselors at school You also have counselors in the community. And I'm going to share something with you right before I leave. I'm going to share where you can use your phone if you have phones. But if not, I can give the information to Mr. Paget. But just know that there are people out here to help you. You don't have to suffer in silence at all. I counsel individuals from age ranges 10. I think my oldest client was 30, not 30, excuse me, 80. My oldest client was 80 years old. And I counsel teenagers. The age group that you all are in, you're going through so much today. So much. And I would need somebody to talk to, just to be honest, if I was a teenager. Because this is where you're trying to learn who you are, and then people want you to be who they want you to be, but you got to learn how to stand and be who you need to be. So if you're thinking about the human service career cluster, it is a very important cluster because you're meeting the human need, you're improving quality of life, you're using whether it's counseling and mental health services, family and community service, personal care and consumer services, you are helping others. And that's what I like to do. I like to help others to become the best version of themselves that they can become. And so hopefully you all will also be that. If nothing else, remember, advocate for yourself, ask questions, talk to people that can help you. Don't just talk to people that's going to steer you in a direction that's not beneficial, that can cause you hurt, harm, or danger. I say this all the time. Find somebody that has wisdom. How do you know they have wisdom? Well, they're not going to tell you to do something that will cause hurt or harm to you. They're going to speak sound. They're going to have a sound judgment. They're going to correct you. You need to have friends around you that will say, no, I don't think you need to do that. Not encourage you to do things that, you shouldn't do. So I just want to say that with that, I want you to think about what you may need. And it's not for the next person to know or whatnot, but
There
go to
you
your
go.
counselor. Go to your school counselor and say, listen, I'm having issues with this. And I know they're busy. Trust me, I have former colleagues. We talk all the time. But listen, even if they're busy, send an email. Send an email to your counselor. Say, hey, I want to know about this. I want to know, am I on track for graduation? I don't know if you all are having meetings like that, to know if you're on track. But it's your responsibility too. They have a responsibility, of course, but I want to tell you all today, advocate for yourselves and find out what you need, what you don't have that you need, so that you can be the best version of yourself that you can be and learn all that you can learn.
Yeah, and before I get to their questions, I did want to mention one thing because you really talked about talking about things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you could, and, we have a variety of different paths that kids want to take, and you talked about your path is your path. Every community college and every university in the state of Mississippi has free mental health services for all students.
Yes, they do.
So, it is so when you're in college and making that adjustment is hard. It's hard for anybody. I don't care who you are. And like you said, it doesn't mean you're crazy. It doesn't mean you're weird or that you're dangerous. You may need to talk to somebody that's a professional about how to cope with things. Like, and
Absolutely.
I got to plug Hines Community College. My good friend Dion Walker is a mental health therapist at Hines Community College in Raymond and in Utica. And she said our services are free for all students. And she said, look, I will come talk. You come talk to me. I'll talk to you about anything. I just want to talk to somebody. So she is
Right.
always happy to talk to students. And it really is, and like you said, there's been a stigma, there's been a anxiety about I can't pay for this. Well, there's never been a better time to have access to things. And like you said, even if you don't want to be a counselor or anything of that nature, knowing that these services are here to help you, knowing that they're here to make your life better, it doesn't mean that you're crazy. It doesn't mean that that you need to go to the hospital. It's just dealing with everyday stressors. Now, I do want to get to a couple of these questions because I have some
Okay.
really good ones. And
Okay,
this
good.
first one is Karen Queen. She's in 10th grade. She's a member of our band, one of our volleyball players. And she asked, as a counselor, have you ever had a time where it was difficult to meet the needs of the people you were serving?
Yes, yes. It was difficult because at some point, sometimes different needs go further than our scope or area of expertise. And or there may be a boundary there where meeting the need, you may want to do more than what you can do. But at the same time, I would say that I was able to do what I could do. So I was able to meet the need to a certain extent without crossing or violating boundaries.
Love it. I got time for one more. This is Christian Fields. He's in ninth grade, one of our football players. And he asked, do you ever find that people are scared to ask the difficult questions when they are in therapy?
Yes. I think that well, here's the thing. There's this stigma, but then also what you see on TV is not necessarily what therapy
There you
is.
go.
I
There
tell
you
my
go.
clients that I provide a safe space, a non-judgmental space. I provide a space where you can express yourself as you see fit or deem necessary. What do I mean by that? This is your therapy session. However you express yourself, I'm not going to judge you. I have clients, they curse in my session and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry." I said, "Look, this is your session. Express yourself. This is you and I. This is your safe space." And so I talk to them just as I'm talking to you. And I tell them, if you're looking for somebody with your legs crossed, saying, "Yes, tell me more," that's not me. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. And most of my clients, when I tell you, they go and tell other people, and then I get phone calls, but such and such called me and such and such told me that, about you and I want to come to therapy. I have so many young adults, 22, 23, 24, 25, that have so many issues that they suffered from in high school, issues with parents. And this is not to knock their parents, but sometimes parents, I tell people,
Yeah,
parents are not always right. Children are not always wrong. Okay. And so we have to learn how to deal with those things and have relationships with people, even when we have differences. That's so important. And so I'm finding I have a lot of that going on. And so if these individuals had received therapy at a younger age, they wouldn't have to be dealing with some of the things that they're dealing with now from that time. So therapy is essential, it's important. And I want to say that it is needful whether people come to me or they go to any other therapy or counseling agency. It is so important that you deal with your mental health, deal with your emotions. A lot of our young people don't know how to express themselves, and so that's something that I teach young people, how to express yourselves positively so that you can form meaningful positive relationships as you get older.
absolutely. And we're almost out of time. And we thank you so much for joining us
Yeah.
and for bearing through our tech issues. But a couple of things before we go. I think it's extremely important we let everybody know if you're ever in mental health crisis, 988 is 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Trained mental
Yes,
health people are there and they can talk you through an issue, and they also have resources to help you
they
find
do.
things you can afford, to help you find things that are possibly free. So there, and we've said it like we see in the movies. People are talking about I'm paying for therapy. Yeah, your family may not be able to pay for the high dollar therapist, but there are still people that are available and are always willing to help. And their only concern is getting you through that tough time.
Listen, and I'm gonna say this, I know we are out of time. Money, you have individuals, I have a sliding scale that I use because I know that individuals struggle, and also if you have insurance, your insurance will pay for it. If you have insurance, your insurance pays for mental health counseling, and sometimes it's not even a deductible that applies or a copay, especially if you have Medicaid. And that breaks down into several: Molina, Ambetter, United Healthcare. Just an array of different insurances: Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna. I mean, Ambetter. It's just a whole list. But you don't have to worry about the cost so much. So you just have to look into it. And then if it is a cost, I'm the type of person, I look at income. If this is your income, look, can you pay this? I've had a college student, didn't have a job, anything. I said, look, can you afford $20, $25? Oh yeah, I can do that. I try to make it cost efficient.
Yeah.
for people because they need it.
Absolutely. Now, the last thing before we go, this is a field that needs diversity. And something I think is overlooked a lot is the need for counselors that are bilingual, ones that speak Spanish, ones that can sign for the hearing impaired. So,
Yes.
as these kids are kind of, thinking about what they want to do, why is there such a need for diverse faces and diverse skills and languages in this field of counseling?
Well, I found it important because on my one of my contract jobs, I got a I got a client that only spoke Spanish, and I had to go and get an interpreter, which is going to be very difficult. So now I'm thinking, and I took 4 years of Spanish in school. No judge. I still need to go back because that's
Yeah.
something I want to do so I can be able to reach everyone. Also, let me say this: when it comes to that, um, they're needed because a lot of people are preferencing and wanting African American therapists.
Yep.
And so that's why it was so important to me because every time I get a client and they're African American, well, I wanted African American. Now, don't get me wrong, I have Caucasian, I have Hispanic, I have an array of clients from gender, race, all of that. And I love it because that's what I want to do.
Absolutely. But again, no matter who you are, there's always going to be a need for you. And even if you don't want to do this, just please remember there are so many people willing to help. Mental health struggles
Right,
are very real and very common. So again, we
right.
thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Shonda Sessoms, licensed professional counselor right here in Jackson, Mississippi. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. All right, take care.